when a child is so young, I hear parents kind of want to have this pornography conversation with their kids, but they also don't want to take away that innocence right away, like too soon, or they just don't want to scare a child, or they just don't think, will they even understand what I'm actually trying to say, right? So there's like some cognitive development that's going on there too. So I really deeply respect and understand how these conversations can be hard. And for a 5 and 6-year-old, we know that the way we talk about sexuality at that age is very different than we do at 10, at 15, at 20. So these conversations are always going to be tiered or scaffolded to meet the needs of the child, so it's age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. So if we come from the conversation from that point of view, that we might need to say it in a gentle way. It might need to be a conversation we have multiple times, right? Just because we've said something at 5 or 6 doesn't mean we don't say it again at 7 and 8 and along the way. And I think it really starts with explaining what the internet is, that we go online and people can share pictures and messages, and other people can share their pictures and messages. And so really kind of having gentle and easy point of entry conversation. And sometimes some of those pictures and things people share can be scary or confusing, right? And so for a young child, pornography isn't necessarily, that young of a child, sexual. It's actually kind of scary. They see it and think of it like we would think of a scary movie or some violence. So when their first thing is to be afraid. So we want to make sure that we're kind of giving them that frame. And so if you ever see anything that you just don't like, doesn't give you a good feeling, or you're confused about, because it might not be pornography. The first thing they stumble on might be something that we consider totally innocent and benign, but to them, they've had some big feelings around. So we don't want to say, like, if you ever see naked people on the internet, come tell me, because there might be lots of other things that they want to be telling us too. And we're kind of waiting for that big conversation, but let's practice that muscle of having lots of little conversations. So when those harder conversations come along, those muscles are developed. We've had the practice of that. We've had the experience of being a trusted adult that a young person can come to. And so saying, you can talk to me about anything that you see. Saying it's not for little kids. So you want to click off and go tell your grown up, right? 5 and 6 is very young. The ideal is that they're having a lot of parental support, parental supervision, that they're not just clicking around the internet, that there's been some choices that parents and families have made that is age appropriate, that we can feel okay with our kids watching, especially in our own houses and in our own devices. Of course, what I would love, and I tend to have this idealistic view, that we can talk to each other as adults. If we are letting our child go over to somebody else's house, any chance I get, I'm kind of throwing myself forward saying, I'm kind of protective of my child. So if they do get to have some screen time, I really like them to only play certain types of video games or watch certain YouTube. Is that something you feel okay with? Right? So just kind of expressing those feelings and letting it be awkward when we're talking to other parents and saying, I feel a little uncomfortable, but I love that they play together and I love that you invited him or her over, and here's how I feel about that. So if we can get to a point of community comfort, if we're trusting someone to host our child, or especially when another adult's involved, the more we can be talking about that as a community, the better. The more we're just kind of framing the conversation for our kids so that they can practice talking to us. I'll insert a personal example. My daughter I think she was 6 at the time, and she was crying before bed. And I was saying, wow, she was using YouTube, but I had kind of previewed some of the channels she was going to be on, like what's so upsetting. And I'm thinking down the road of pornography. I'm thinking down the road of something that, I'll really have to spend a lot of time with her seeing. And she said to me, well, one of the videos said, click here to watch Roadkill, to see the Roadkill. And she clicked a video and someone had videotaped Roadkill. And that really, really disturbed her and really bothered her. So I bring that up not to scare parents, but to say, sometimes we think it's going to be this very specific conversation, but there's a million different ways for us to check in along the way. So our child can build their resiliency, build the communication skills, process their feelings, and also not be afraid to then go ahead and say, I gave her tools like, okay, we don't click on anything that we're not sure about. Or if you need help with that, you come and ask me. And I bet I was validating her feelings. I bet that was scary. I bet that was gross. And so really providing that support is our job, especially of the very young child starting out, and that we cannot say enough, like, I love you no matter what, right? You won't be in trouble if you come and talk to me about something you saw online, or somebody wanted to show you a picture that didn't make you feel good or didn't feel appropriate or okay, that I love you and I'm on your team and we'll figure this out together, and that you won't be in trouble. And so the more we say that at 5 and 6, the more they believe us at 12 and 16, right? Because they've heard it all along.